This ancient clay cylinder confirms one of the important events in the Bible that will blow your mind. The Bible tells us that after 70 years of captivity in Babylon, King Cyrus of Persia made the daring decision to free the Jewish exiles and help rebuild their temple. But it's unbelievable. Why would a foreign king like Cyrus do this? This raised doubts about the Bible's account. But in 1879, everything changed when archaeologists uncovered a clay cylinder from 538 BC. This artifact contained ancient inscriptions which showed that Cyrus issued a decree allowing captives to return home and rebuild their temples. This confirmed the Bible's account of a 2,500-year-old event and is regarded as the first declaration of human rights. What's even more amazing is that Isaiah actually predicted this event 150 years before Cyrus was even born, mentioning him by name. Don't believe me? Read for yourself.
So no, I don't believe you. And the reason why I don't believe you is because it is very well known in scholastic circles that the prophet Isaiah did not write the entirety of Isaiah. So let me explain so that you can comprehend it, and you can go and do this research for yourself. By simply asking appropriate questions, you will easily gain the appropriate answers. So the first question that you should ask is, when was the time frame of the writing of the book of Isaiah? And what you will find out is that the first half of Isaiah was written in the 8th century BCE, which means that it was written in the time frame of the 700s BCE. It will then explain how the second half, which includes the prophecy about Cyrus, the Persian king, was written in the 6th century BCE, which places it in the 500s BCE. Now, ask the question, when was Cyrus the Great the king of Persia? Well, he was the king of Persia in and around 559 BCE up until around 529 BCE. So that means that he was the Persian king during the time frame that the second half of the prophecy, that Isaiah was written, which means that he was the Persian king during the time frame that this prophecy was actually written. So now that we know that the book of Isaiah was written by more than one author, that the part that talks about Cyrus was written during the time frame that Cyrus had conquered the Babylonian Empire, you must ask yourself this other question. He says in this video that it seems to be odd that Cyrus would grant these people their freedom to go and rebuild their temples. But when you look at and most of the time we call it the Persian Empire, but it's called the Achaemenid Empire. When we look at the Achaemenid Empire under Cyrus, he was known for his leniency towards the people to whom he conquered, that what he wanted them to be were vassal states. He wanted them to be their own nations, but they are nations up under the Achaemenid Empire. So they would have their own local government, their own local rulership, and those local governments and rulership would then carry the banner of, or they would be under the supervision of the Achaemenid Empire. It makes it easier to rule in that situation. This is one of the mistakes that many empires have tried to create or try to do when they try to just maintain their own dominance over people and oppress them. Instead, you set up puppet regimes, which is what Cyrus was setting up. So the idea that Isaiah was writing this prophecy and the entire book was written at the time frame of the 8th century BCE, and he predicted Cyrus by name? No. But the writers who were writing in the time frame of Cyrus could, even if they had written it a few years before Cyrus came and conquered the Babylonians and then freed the Jewish people, and many other people were freed as well, not just the Jewish people. But it's kind of like predicting politics today. I'll give you an example. When I was in grade school, my history teacher accurately predicted that by the 90s or within the 90s, the Soviet Union will collapse. Now, growing up in the 70s and 80s, the Soviet Union was a great scare. But by looking at the political ramifications of everything, natural resources, leadership, all these other things that was going on, he was able to say that somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, the Soviet Union will collapse. And it did. Does that make him a prophet? No. It just means that if you are looking at the information and looking at the world as it is easy to predict what's going to happen. So even if this was written prior to Cyrus conquering the Babylonians, it could have been easily predicted that Cyrus would conquer Babylon. And then after conquering Babylon, especially looking at the state of Babylon at that time frame, since the last king of Babylon pretty much left Babylon and started worshiping a different god than Marduk, and started worshiping the moon god. Sin, I believe, is their moon god. And the priests in Babylon were not happy about that. And here comes Cyrus, and they virtually just let him into the gates. And they appreciated Cyrus because they can go back to their rulership through their religion. They would be very willing. So it would be easy to predict that if you were in the upper echelon of the Israelite people living in and under Babylonian captivity. So this is not a prediction. It's great to have the cylinder seal. We fully accept in history that the Babylonian captivity happened, that the people of Jerusalem were released, the Israelites were released to go back and create the vassal state under the Persian government. Fully accept those historical facts. But do we accept the historical belief of Nebuchadnezzar's dream? Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego being in the fire, and then they seeing the Son of Man. Do we accept that Isaiah prophesied about this way in advance? No, it's pseudographical, meaning that somebody else wrote it and put it under his name. We do not accept that. Just because one thing is true doesn't make all the writings and everything within it true. And definitely, Isaiah never predicted the fact that Cyrus the Great would come. They wrote it after the fact, or right during the fact. So y'all have a great day. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.